Hello, and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I'm Dave Mariani, CTO and co-founder of AtScale, and we're partnering with CDO Magazine, MIT CDO IQ, and the International Society of Chief Data Officers in a series of interviews. And today I have the pleasure of talking with Alex Golbin, Chief Data Officer at Morningstar. Alex, thanks for joining the interview.
Thank you so much for having me, David. It's a pleasure.
As a chief data officer, what does it look like in terms of how you work with, other leaders in the company? Like, what's your mode of operation in terms of how you add value to a company like Morningstar and how you work with your peers?
I guess in a way, kind of, I defined the mission for myself and for the organization in a very simplistic way. I call it free the data. And so like in the financial industry, for example, most of the financial institutions are connecting people who have money with people who need money, right? I view my role as connecting people who have data with those who need data. So freeing the data is basically free flow of information from ingredients into insight with the least amount of friction possible. And the way I think about it is there are three durable client needs. So again, I'm trying to always say it's view the role of the chief data officer and the way I kind of coordinate with the rest of the leadership team at Morningstar is that collectively it's about what clients need as opposed to what we want to build. And what are the durable client needs that will never change regardless of what happens in the world? So clients need more value from the data they get from Morningstar. Morningstar is a data research company, and it's all about the value add. It's not about quantities. It's not about frequency. It's about value, right? Value could be quantity could be part of value, but it's really about value. The second thing, clients need speed. Mm-hmm. When things are happening all the time. It's there are lots of sanctions are being imposed on a number of companies and people yesterday, today, tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Investors are waking up, portfolio managers are waking up. What does it mean for my portfolio? Which list of companies do I need to divest? Where? So time to market with respect to responding to clients' needs today, as opposed to give me a year to build something and then I'll have the answer. Well, I don't need today's question answered a year from today. So client needs value, clients need time, speed, and clients need convenience. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many times I had a conversation with senior folks on the receiving end who said 70% of my staff is dedicated to uploading, loading, connecting, matching, scrubbing, as opposed to actually doing my work. So yeah. I cannot imagine the world when clients will need less value, less speed, and less convenience, right? Right. So assuming that, I view my role as a chief data officer at Morningstar is just to making sure that all our conversations, priorities, and builds are rooted in those three fundamental durable client needs. That helps us priority, that helps us have a conversation, create a common language. Mm-hmm. And then if we talk about clients, then again, I'm trying to simplify the world. And client's journey with Morningstar consists of three steps. It's a data discovery, you look at the shop window, it's what's out there. Mm-hmm. It's data packaging. Mm-hmm. I just need to package what I need, what is required, and then it's data delivery. Can I get it in a cloud? Can I get it through Exchange, Marketplace, whatever, FTP with the Pigeon, whatever the preferences are. Mm-hmm. So organizing the rest of Morningstar, embracing this durable client needs and the understand, agreeing on the steps of the client journey, and using that as basically connecting tissue of, essentially passing legislation through the halls of Congress. Mm-hmm. My job is as much of persuading and building consensus as it is delivering. Right? If I have alignment and consensus, I think we're 70% of the way there. Mm-hmm. Versus building, and then it's how come you don't like it?
Right. Well, what's interesting is that at Morningstar, we all I talk about this a lot about data as products, data products and treating data as a product, which, and in Morningstar, you're delivering data products. That's the business. But as opposed to some of your, some of your past experience, right? Was probably more of a traditional sort of, obviously
data was means to an end. Now data is the product. Yeah.
Data is the product. So can you talk a little bit about that, Alex, about the difference? And could you see, now that you're at Morningstar and you're delivering data products, could you see sort of changing what you did in the past, perhaps, to take more of that sort of like that kind of thinking?
Yes. So like one of the things where I really enjoyed sort of like, joining Morningstar, and I found myself embracing a culture, because it's very investor centric, it's very client centric. With the mission of empowering investor success, it's sort of like there are three words in there, but it's pretty clear what it's about. And for a data and research company, information is power. So you empower investor success with providing them information that is timely, that is accurate, that is relevant, that essentially helps people answer the question, what do I do with my money? And understanding that it's like, there's retirement needs, there's spending phase needs, there's like, ESG, or sort of like, sustainability focus in the investor community. Understanding what data products, what insights have to be put in front of clients to actually make their decision making, make their life easy. So I like this notion. That's where I see like, great deal of similarities with my prior life at BlackRock, which is also incredibly client focused. As a fiduciary, it was basically maniacal about putting clients first. So transition from BlackRock to Morningstar with respect to cultural aspects of data is the crown jewel of the organization. That didn't change. Like, although BlackRock is an investment management firm, it was built on the notion of if you don't understand risk, you don't really know what you're doing in terms of investments. And risk is very much the function of data. So BlackRock was and is like incredibly focused on being a data company as much as it is an investment company. And Morningstar is the data company, being research and data provider. So in a way, frankly, I don't see a big difference between an asset management firm like BlackRock or data and research firm like Morningstar, because if you're really focused on investors and on clients first and foremost, and then everything else comes distant second, then you realize that in this day and age, with the complexity, with the velocity, with veracity of data hitting us, turning data into information figures like, our brains haven't grown, whereas like, data is multiplying or is growing like, exponentially. So the task of taking those like, terabytes of data per second and translating it into like, 3 nuggets of information that I need to know is like somebody has to do it. And I'm proud to be part of that ecosystem where we take this entire world complexity and try to distill it into what clients need to know.
Yeah, I love what you're saying there. One of my favorite customers of mine is a retailer, and they, when I talk to them, they're like, "Look, we happen to be a data company that sells things," and it is really, I think companies who have that in mind, where it's their data companies, and they're using data to deliver their products or satisfy their customers better. When they think of the data first, it really makes a big difference. And you said things like free the data. I also love that. I call it, my version of free the data is data for everyone. Right. Which means it's not just for a data engineer or somebody who could write SQL. To me, that's the big mistake that a lot of companies make, is that they create such a high bar for people to participate and use data to make data-driven decisions. that you leave out the core business folks who could actually use that data to make the company more money, save them more cost, or make that customer experience better. I love that. I love free to data and data for everyone.
So several years ago, we're lucky enough, we went on a vacation to Peru, and I remember we landed in Cusco, Peru, which is 11,500 feet above sea level, and we went about, and it's sightseeing. It's a beautiful city, and then about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I started feeling very unwell, and it was I realized I had altitude sickness, and that's when I realized that I was actually in the business of breathing oxygen. And it's I didn't realize I was in the business of breathing oxygen.
I love that.
And I think in a way, I think all of us and every business and every company is in a business of breathing data. You may not necessarily wake up every morning thinking about it, but when you don't have it, you do have the notion of altitude sickness in a data space, because you don't have the answers when you need those answers. And the world is throwing all sorts of curveballs at us, and people are scared. People are nervous. People don't understand what's going on. And somebody has to be that calm voice in the room, providing information. And it's really telling people what they need to know, as opposed to telling them the story that you need to tell. And that is a huge difference. And many of us in the technology space make that mistake of loading things up with the extreme complexity. This is the story I need to tell, without realizing that this is not what people need to hear, right? So I think this notion of we are all in the business of data, whether or not we realize it or not. Yeah, dawned on me over the last couple of years.
Yeah, the people who have come to that conclusion, that those organizations are leaders, and we've seen that with our best customers are using data as the way to differentiate, and it's a really powerful combination. So Alex, so how do you get everyone to use data? I mean, so what are some of the techniques, some of the things that you've done where you can get more people to be able to participate and use data to make decisions? How is that? What are some of the things you've done to sort of make data more approachable for more users?
So it sounds a little cliche, but I think it's storytelling is really important. So even when I joined Morningstar, it's the ecosystem was fairly complex, and again, we like to throw new terminology at people, especially those of us in the technology world. We sort of get excited as we discover new technologies, and it's we went from databases to cloud to different types of clouds, and we talk Snowflake and Redshift, and it's AWS, and it's this all sounds different. What I think we got to realize is that it is scary for 99.9% of the population. It's when people come to work, they have their certain routines. They've been doing it for a while. They come in, you turn on a computer, you have your cup of coffee, you have a conversation, and then you do your work. And every time a brainiac comes in and starts throwing now there's we're migrating you from X to X to Y, they might think this is fantastic. It's your life will be easier. As a person behind the computer, I'm holy crap. Now I actually have to and now the change is coming. People love change as long as they're not the ones changing, right? So realizing that people using data are generally change averse. New tools and new capabilities take a really long time to adopt. Reducing the amount of work my consumers have to do in order to embrace new sets of data, I think it's one of my top 10 commandments, right? With that in mind, it's about storytelling and about simplifying client experience, and it's about reducing the amount of pain and noise and transaction costs. So when I joined Morningstar, one of the first things I did was understood the general complexity of the ecosystem. And one of my friends' daughter just graduated from college with a degree in art. So it's like I said, look, can you do some doodling for me? I'll read the story and just draw some cartoons. And she never did like any technology or finance course in her life. So I had to write the narrative in a way that she could understand it, so she could actually doodle it. And I figured like, okay, so if she gets it, then chances are everybody else will get it. And then we did like, a 10-minute cartoon, whereas basically it's like, this is where we were, this is where we are, this is where we're going, but sort of like in a way that's sort of like, you can look at it. And then we showed it all across around the company at the town halls, put it on the web, got a lot of clicks, a lot of likes, and a lot of people like, okay, I finally get it. It's like, this is data warehouse, this is data lake, this is lakefront, this is lakehouse. Like, now I understand how it all fits, but sort of like in a what's the difference between Kafka and Franz Kafka? Oh, right. So when you again put it in a reasonably well and to understand story, all of a sudden like you get people's attention, because now finally I understand where you're going. I understand why you're talking about this. Okay, I keep talking, and so to me that was step one. Then second question is like, how much work do I need to do? And if the answer is not a lot, then you still have their attention. And then actually there's value. And especially when there's an opportunity, and it could be anything. It's like, again, as I said today, people are asking questions. What is my portfolio exposure to Russian list of Russian companies that are sanctioned? If you say like, oh, I can like, look, you can build a Jupyter notebook, or I can build a Jupyter notebook. And in about 45 minutes, you can actually run any portfolio through this notebook, and I'll give you like, allocation to those companies. Like, fantastic. I have a real problem. 45 minutes later, I have the answer. Thank you very much. Next time, I'll come to you because your credibility in my book is actually bubbling up a notch. So part of that is building credibility. And again, speaking in terms of data, what people need to know as opposed to what you want to tell gets you to that credibility. And my last point is quality, and quality, right? So like, nothing stops the conversation sooner than you give people an answer and it's wrong because you're using the incorrect piece of data. So like, I am obsessive about data quality. And like, this is like one thing that I believe that like, if there was like something that I wake up sweating every morning is like, is our data right?
So, Alex, this is so much fun. I love talking to you.
Likewise. Thanks, David. Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining me today. And for listeners out there, please visit cdomagazine.tech for some additional interviews. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.